season. We know she was dealing with a lot coming off our national championship game, entering the WNBA, big time transition. I understand that, but we also have to hold these WNBA referees accountable because they played a big factor in the assault Caitlin Clark took for the 2024 season because they did not call a bunch of calls that should have been fouls, bro.
The WNBA is currently dealing with a significant referee issue, and Caitlin Clark's rookie season has become a focal point in this ongoing debate. I'm about to present footage that will change the way you view the obstacles she's encountered in the league. From questionable technical fouls to clear missed calls, the pattern is undeniable. This is important because, even if Indiana's management hires stronger coaches or signs top free agents, meaningful progress cannot be made if the officiating continues to be so inconsistent.
We know the Indiana Fever front office did everything they had to do, put the right pieces around Caitlin Clark, make sure they make it far in the playoffs, and possibly get a WNBA championship.
Caitlin Clark's journey is revealing underlying issues that may influence the future of the entire WNBA.
Prime example, what really made me start thinking about this was the DJ Currington situation. They didn't call nothing on that for her poking Caitlin Clark in the eye, and that really had me thinking, like, damn, how many times did they actually, drop the ball and didn't call stuff against Caitlin?
Have you ever watched a basketball game and felt like the referees were unfairly targeting one player? That's exactly what Caitlin Clark experienced last season, and I have the evidence to support it. From the moment Clark entered the WNBA, viewership soared, breaking records across the board. But while all attention was on Clark, there was something unusual about how her games were being officiated.
Caitlin got called for a technical for hitting the back of the backboard. If somebody viciously clotheslined her, we're not getting a call for that. And I just wondered if they would have done it a little different, just start calling stuff for people assaulting Caitlin Clark, that would have kind of minimized the pressure and minimized the assault I believe she would have took for the 2024 season. And going into this new season, once again, they're held responsible, bro.
The narrative surrounding Clark's rookie season often focused on her adapting to the physicality of the professional level, but that only touches on part of the story. Time and time again, referees failed to call clear fouls. She absorbed heavy contact on drives, was shoved during jump shots, and was frequently knocked off the ball. Take that offensive foul on June 13th against Seattle, for example. Clark made a simple dribble move, yet the whistle still blew. Even the commentators were puzzled. "I'm not seeing a foul there," one remarked, as the replay showed almost no contact.
Second personal, let's take a look.
I think we ought to be able to see it from this angle. I don't see how that's an offensive foul to me.
Now, that was called an offensive foul on Caitlin Clark. Do we all remember that play? How was that an offensive foul, bro? How, remotely, is this right here an offensive foul, dog? How? Like, I'm just not getting that. But that was the call that was put on Caitlin Clark.
This wasn't an isolated incident. It turned into a noticeable trend. Watching her season felt like observing an official with a bias. Upon reviewing the footage, it's difficult to ignore that Clark was treated differently. Players like Aja Wilson and Brianna Stewart made the same plays but were given more leeway, while Clark frequently found herself penalized with fouls.
I am not letting up on them damn WNBA referees because they are the biggest haters when it comes to Caitlin Clark, bro. I know we got haters everywhere, but nobody is worse than these WNBA referees.
Defenders approached Clark differently, knowing they could get away with more physicality, pushing her on drives, invading her landing space on jump shots, and consistently hand-checking her without drawing any penalties.
Unnecessary. Kennedy Carter.
Seattle, and all of a sudden, we're pretty close. This has been as close as it's been all second quarter long, 44.
Given Clark's high usage rate and frequent drives to the rim, she should have been awarded many more trips to the free throw line, yet she averaged just 3.7 per game. Other rookies with similar offensive roles and playing styles received nearly double the number of free throws, while Clark missed out on numerous opportunities that should have been routine.
There was also a stat that came out a few weeks ago that said Caitlin Clark received 17% of the WNBA's flagrant fouls this season, and 80% of those flagrant fouls were committed by the Chicago Sky against Caitlin Clark.
The impact went well beyond the box score. Adjusting to a faster, more physical league is already challenging, but discovering that officials are holding you to a different standard only makes it tougher. It affects your confidence, decision-making, and overall rhythm. As the season went on, the issue only worsened. Once defenders understood they could get away with more contact, they took full advantage, knowing there would be no calls.
You have the face of your league getting nearly 20% of all flagrant fouls called against her. That is an issue, and that's not just an issue that the players have to work out. That is from top down. That goes to the commissioner level. Like, that is the level that needs to control these kinds of things.
The way Caitlin Clark was targeted escalated from problematic to outright dangerous, and that's not an overstatement. There's clear footage of Clark being knocked to the floor during a drive, and yet the referees didn't make any call. How does something like this occur in a professional league? Let me show you.
Pick up Caitlin Clark from the second she touches the basketball. That's what Burton did there. All over Caitlin. Wow.
If you watch the games closely, it's obvious that Clark was held to an entirely different standard. In one striking moment, she drove to the basket and was knocked to the ground. The commentators immediately reacted, shouting, "That's a foul," in disbelief. But the referees? They stood there, silent, as if nothing had occurred.
Foul again. She's coming down the court. Foul. It looked like Miranda did that to her, bro. But that's what I'm talking about.
This developed into a concerning pattern. In just one game, Clark was knocked to the floor 3 times without a single foul being called. It felt like watching someone walk a tightrope with no safety net below. Fans at home witnessed it all unfold in real time, shoving at their screens in disbelief.
On this page stated, this has been pretty much the whole game. No call fouls for Caitlin Clark. The WNBA and their officials now know how to screw up a good thing.
The contrast in how defenders guarded Clark compared to other guards speaks volumes. Take Marina Mabrey, for example. The way she defended most players versus how she played Clark was night and day. Mabrey quickly realized she could be far more physical with Clark, and the refs wouldn't intervene. And who could overlook the incident with Dijamai Carrington?
See, Caitlin comes off a screen here. She dribbles back to her right hand, and then she's going for the pass to Aaliyah Boston when Dejanay jumps up, seemingly looking to try to steal the ball, and then hits her in the face. Caitlin is on the ground, the ball goes in the opposite direction, and the Connecticut Suns score. The internet doing what the internet does, they found a second angle to this play, and this is where a lot of fans were saying that this was intentional. It's in slow motion, as you can see here. Dejanay is going up for the ball, she misses, and then her hand bends down like this and goes straight into Caitlin's eye.
Clark was blatantly poked in the eye, a dangerous move and an obvious foul by any standard. Yet the referees stayed silent and didn't even review the play. In the very same quarter, another player was called for barely brushing an opponent's arm. The double standard was so obvious that it felt like 2 completely different games were being played on the same court. It became so evident that even former WNBA referees spoke up. One former official openly acknowledged that Clark was being officiated under a noticeably different standard than other players. And that's coming from someone who knows the rules inside and out, not just from frustrated fans.
Back on this, we said, how can the WNBA justify these referees? Caitlin Clark gets blatantly fouled twice, no call. I guess that's the playoffs, but these are bad.
What we witnessed wasn't just a few missed calls. It was a pattern that directly jeopardized Clark's safety. Each ignored foul emboldening defenders to push the boundaries further, and some of the contact began to resemble football more than basketball. When referees fail to intervene, physical play inevitably escalates. What starts as aggressive defense can quickly spiral into dangerous situations that have no place in the game. Clark wasn't just facing tough defense. She was being forced to play through genuine injury risks while the officials stood by, game after game.
You need to protect your superstars, and the WNBA has not done well this entire season of protecting their one superstar who brought in more eyeballs than anyone else has ever done in the league. She should have a special whistle. Calls like this should be made, should be reviewed. People should know right off the bat, it shouldn't be the first round of the playoffs that players think that they can still do this kind of thing to Caitlin Clark, to Angel Reese. Not calling some of these fouls and not cracking down on some of these cheap shots and hard fouls that are so excessive, not only against Caitlin Clark, but against other players as well. You see compilations of them online. Not cracking down on these are going to turn people off to watching the WNBA, and it's not going to allow the league to grow and people to be more excited in players other than Caitlin Clark.